Welcome to episode 46 of this chess puzzle adventure series starring Bobby Fischerman, Average Joe, and Peter Potzer. Now, before we get into this week's episode, I need to tell you guys something that I messed up, okay? So when I created this Chess Adventures series, it started on my channel, Chess Vibes, okay? And I did a bunch of episodes there, and people were enjoying it and watching it. And then I decided, well, it's different enough for my other content. I'm going to move it to a different channel called Chess Adventures. And when I did that, for whatever reason, because people didn't want to take the time to go to that channel, because the algorithm didn't like that new channel as much, something happened where people just kind of stopped watching, okay? They weren't getting shown the video, I guess. I don't know. So then I was like, well, great, this isn't working. Let me go back and just restart on Chess Vibes. So what has happened now is we've got half the episodes on Chess Vibes. We've got half the episodes on Chess Adventures. Nobody really knows what's going on. They have a hard time figuring out how to follow the series. It's a total mess. And for that, I apologize. Sometimes you learn things the hard way, you do it and you think it's a good idea at the time, but then you realize it was a terrible idea. Anyway, the easiest way, in my opinion, to follow along with this story is to go to just like the YouTube search bar, like you're searching for a video, and to just type in Chess Adventures episode, put in the number that you want. So if you're watching episode 25 and you want to see episode 26, Chess Adventures episode 26, it'll pull it right up regardless of which channel it's on, and you can follow the story that way. That's my recommendation. Again, I apologize. I'm sorry that I did that. If I could go back, I would not have created the other channel, but I was experimenting and that's just what happened. Okay. Just wanted to say that because I know a lot of people are like, how do I follow along? I can't find the next episode. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Having said that, let's get back to the episode. Previously, Peter Potzer had joined the Pirates crew and was headed towards Pirates Harbor. But meanwhile, Bobby Fischerman and Average Joe had been following the Caterpillar to the ancient library. They got to the library, walked up to the front door, and opened it. And when they went inside, there was a book on a table that had a chessboard on it. Bobby grabbed the book and he tried to open it, but it wouldn't open. The Caterpillar said, no, this is a magic book, and the only way it opens is if you can solve the puzzle. And as soon as he said that, the board began to change and turned into a position. Bobby Fischerman studied the position and began to solve it. So this is the puzzle that Bobby Fischerman was trying to solve. Black's pawns are going down the board in this direction, so they're only one square away from becoming a queen. It's White's turn, and White has to somehow save the game and not lose. Before I say anything else, White to play and draw. What do you think the correct move is? All right, if you had a chance to think about that. So normally when pawns are this far advanced, if they are connected, you're in trouble. Okay, like if you imagine if this pawn was right here, Black would just be winning immediately because there's no way the rook could stop them. One of the pawns would become a queen. It would be defended by the other pawn. There's nothing that the rook could do. But because they are not together, it gives the rook some chances. However, you don't have a lot of options with the rook because if you just go here to try to, like, let's say attack this pawn, well, the other pawn just pushes, Black gets a queen. This is a winning position for Black, right? So the only move for White is rook to a1 because rook to a1 actually stops both squares at the same time. So now if either pawn pushes, you just take it and you just take it. And that's going to be a win for White, right? Of course, Black's not going to do that. So rook to a1, I think, makes a lot of sense. Pretty straightforward. But now is where it gets a little bit tricky because, of course, Black's not going to just give up the pawns. What they're going to do is bring their king. Now, White to play and save the game. What move do you play here as White? You got a chance to look at that. Hopefully you didn't say rook f1 or rook h1 because if you bring the rook over, you now are going to lose. And the reason is this is a totally wasted move. This accomplishes nothing. Because the king is just going to move and you can never take the pawn. Because if you take the pawn, you no longer control the queening square of the other pawn. They get a queen and Black's going to win. And it doesn't matter which pawn you choose. Same thing's going to happen, right? If you go here, Black says, I don't even know what you're doing. You take that, they get the queen. This is going to be a win for Black, okay? So you have no time to spare, actually, and you need to play king to b7. You need your king to start marching to see if it can play a role. Now, Black, of course, does not want to let you do that. So what is Black going to do? Well, king to f6. And now what do you play? That's correct. Hopefully you said king to c6. Okay, Black says, well, I'll just go here. And what has Black done? They've successfully boxed you out. They're actually using a technique in chess called the crooked path. So when you go back to the beginning, look at Black's king. you want to help your pawns, right? So one way to do that would be to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's just say. But another way to do that would be to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice how it's still 5 moves, but this is what we would call a crooked path. And the reason you would want to do this is because now you get the bonus that you can box out your opponent's king at the same time, right? And that's exactly what black is doing. So they get here and they're pretty happy because they're still marching down the board, but now they've successfully stopped white's king from getting any closer to the pawns. And this is starting to look pretty bad for white. Okay, so let's keep going. White says king c5. Black plays king e4. Again, continuing to box them out, but also getting ready to head over this way and support the pawns to become queens, right? Because if you can force white to sacrifice the rook for one of these pawns, the other one just becomes a queen. So the question for white is, how do you stop this? White to play. You got a chance to look at that. The move for white is king to c4. You might say, okay, Nelson, that doesn't look like it really does anything. And you're right, it doesn't look like it, but watch this. King e3. And black actually decides, I'm not even going to go here to let the king come. I'm just going to go here and not let the king and then force the rook to sacrifice here. And guess what? When the dust settles, I'm still going to have a pawn. So for example, this is what black's plan is. King c3, king e2, king c2, get the queen, the rook has to sacrifice, the king takes. You're not stopping that guy. Black's going to win. So I've told you what black's plan is. The question is now, so he plays here. How do you stop it? White to play and save the game. There's only one correct move. If you had a chance to look at that, this is really the special moment in the puzzle, the wow moment, I guess you could say, or maybe it comes a little bit later, but the only move is rook to h1. Rook to h1. What does that do? Rook to h1. Black's like going to do the same thing. What's going on, right? Black can't do the same thing. Why? Because if black plays here, bam, you take the pawn and you pin the pawn at the same time. So you can't push it. And guess what? We're going to now sack our rook for the pawn. We get the draw. We're happy. We don't lose. That's what white wants. So by going rook h1, you stop the king from going forward. That's the only way you could actually stop the king from going there. Of course, if you try to use your rook, over here, it doesn't do anything because then the pawn becomes a queen. So rook h1, very clever way to stop the king from going to e2. However, black says, fine, not a big deal. I'll go king f3, and guess what? I'm sneaking into g2. You're still going to have a problem with your rook. I'm going to have 2 pawns that I could push. It's not looking good for white. What do you do? If you had a chance to look at that, hopefully you didn't say rook takes h2, because that doesn't solve your problem. They just get the queen. It's with check. That's a losing position. Black's going to win. Okay, so you can't take the pawn. What you need to do now is king to d3. Now you bring the king over. Say, Nelson, what's going on? King g2. My rook. What do I do? If you had a chance to look at that, here, again, it's kind of a wow moment in the puzzle, and it kind of goes along with the rook h1. King to e2, only drawing move. King e2, what in the world? So you stop this queen. If black gets a queen here, guess what? I'm going to take that. Thank you very much. And then I'll sacrifice my rook and I get a draw. You say, okay, but black's not going to do that. They're going to take the rook, right? And hopefully you have that realization now of what's going on. This is a stalemate trap. We've lured the king into the corner where it's stuck after we play king to f1. You don't even have to take either pawn. You stalemate the king. The black can't move, can't move, can't move. Nothing can move. It's a stalemate. This is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. Now, you could also take the pawn. It's also a stalemate, but I think this one looks cooler, personally. It's a draw. So just to recap, your rook stays here. Your king just kind of mirrors the king for a while. And then at the right moment, you swing it over to h1. And when the king comes here, you let him take your rook so that you can trap the king in the corner and get the stalemate. Absolutely incredible. And of course, Bobby Fischerman solved it correctly. As soon as Bobby Fischerman played the last move correctly, the book opened. And he started to look inside and flip through pages. And he noticed something very peculiar. Each page had a list of ingredients and a recipe that made some kind of food. As he kept flipping through it, he got to a certain page and the caterpillar said, "There, that's the page, look." Bobby Fischerman looked, and sure enough, at the top of the page in the ingredients list section, it said dragon's tear. The recipe was for something called blank slate soup. Bobby said, what is blank slate soup? The caterpillar said, if the chef gets his hands on the dragon's tear, he's going to make this soup, and anyone who eats it, their chess memory is going to be completely wiped. All of their chess knowledge and ability and skills are going to be completely erased from their mind. They will be a complete beginner, not even understanding how the pieces move. Bobby Fischerman looked at Average Joe. Average Joe looked at Bobby Fischerman with concern. And that's where we'll pick up our story next time. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, happy adventures on the chessboard.